Super Mario Bros. NES games, a necessity for gracious living.
Ah yes, this trilogy of classic games is now undoubtedly the stuff of legends. These titles are often cited as some of the greatest video games of all time, and are often admired for how they helped propel video game design forward. Reaching record sales numbers, these remain quintessential adventures that are still enjoyed today, with their legacy helping to embed everyone's favourite Italian plumbing brothers as a prominent fixture in popular culture forever. The success of Nintendo's 8-bit platform would inspire more powerful console hardware being developed by the competition. It was only a matter of time until the Mario Brothers jumped into the realm of 16-bit too, resulting in another classic known as Super Mario World. But what if I told you not everyone was happy with Mario's 8-bit home console escapades coming to a close, with them deciding to take the bold decision of continuing where Nintendo left off, thus carrying on releasing new Mario games for the aged hardware. Some cheeky buggers out there thought making more was a great idea, so without further ado,
I am Lady Decade, and this is the illegal Super Mario Bros. 4 for the NES.
As discussed on this channel many times before, while Nintendo and Sega were the popular gaming brands within the Anglosphere in the early 90s, it was a different story in other parts of the world. Well, kind of, at least. Some clever sods had managed to reverse engineer the 8-bit Famiclone, meaning that Nintendo clone consoles sold under various regional names and were mass produced, selling like hotcakes around much of the planet. This was an extremely profitable endeavour, with video game copyright laws being laxed to non-existent in many places. Those who couldn't afford costly official Nintendo hardware could enjoy many of the games anyway, meaning the Super Mario Bros. Trilogy was accessible to far more gamers than prior.
So let's dig deeper.
In an era when 16-bit gamers were enjoying Super Mario World, video game developers supporting the grey market wanted a new Mario game for Famiclone owners. This is where the video game in question comes in today. Around 1991, an unlicensed video game would pop up simply titled Mario 4, using Roman numerals. According to the game's title screen, this one was published by IGS Incorporated, an entity still going alive and strong today, publishing games for the Chinese market. While dealing primarily in mobile gaming now, as you can see, their roots were far shadier, including being involved with developing this dubious Mario effort. So, what would gamers experience if they played this one? Let's find out. After making your way past the title screen that features a crude illustration of Mario, gamers find themselves on a map screen, the first of which depicts a desert. Once the first stage is selected, the game's side-scrolling action begins, with players quickly noticing they can execute a spinball jump, very reminiscent of the one Sonic the Hedgehog is capable of. With slopes to slide down in this ball form, it quickly becomes apparent that whatever this game is, it seems to be one of the early efforts inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog gameplay. Mario's sprite work has clearly been ripped straight out of Super Mario Bros. 3 and inserted within this illegal oddity. Enemies, on the other hand, do not look like Mario enemies, and the stages do not thematically match previous Mario efforts either, so clearly there was funny business going on here. For example, in what Mario universe does he stumble into bars and speak to anthropomorphic goats?
Well, the Chinaverse, I suppose. And if you don't love this game, that is minus 1 million social credits for you.
Speaking of China, I want to quickly mention that because Chinese censorship is so embarrassingly strict, the people of China are unfortunately not allowed to watch YouTube. This means that I am missing out on 1.3 billion potential subscribers just because their government is too frightened to expose the public to what the rest of the world thinks of the CCP. So, if you prefer me to this loser, hit that subscribe button now. Let's continue discussing other things that come out of China, such as dodgy video games like this. The more and more you play this one, the more you will realise that it is a Mario game in name alone, as very little about it is Mario related, apart from the playable character sprite itself. But those with a keen eye will notice certain animation frames turn Mario temporarily into a different character completely. So, what's going on here? Well, the reality is that Mario 4 is a modified version of a title known as Armadillo. This game is particularly interesting in my opinion. Although seemingly Sonic the Hedgehog inspired, it hit the Famicom just 2 months after releasing the first Sonic game on the Mega Drive, so maybe the game's similarities are entirely coincidental. One thing that is clearly no coincidence is the inspiration it took from Super Mario Bros. 3, including the map screens we mentioned earlier. This platforming trope was established in the third part of the Super Mario trilogy. Also, like in Mario 3, enemy characters move around on the map screens and must be beaten in combat when contact is made with them. Throughout this platforming adventure, you must play as an armadillo, walking, jumping and rolling through stages. Control in your ball form is known to be a tad slippery, but it is in this form that enemies can be taken out. Such a form factor also allows your armadillo to jump much higher too. Two-player mode sees player 1 wearing a red hat and player 2 wearing a green hat, an obvious homage to the Super Mario Bros. So given its similarities with both Super Mario Bros. 3 and Sonic the Hedgehog, it is no wonder the bootleggers chose such a game to tamper with.
Still, with a very cool concept, it may have you wondering why you're not familiar with the original game.
Well, sadly, Armadillo was never released outside of Japan. A North American release was planned for a while, as was a sequel and even a Game Boy version. For whatever reason, though, all these efforts were cancelled, mostly at least, as the Game Boy game was still produced for Japan. Still, the Armadillo character was dropped in favour of Ultraman, resulting in a title known as Ultraman Ball. Maybe the publishers saw the Armadillo as a dud. This now largely forgotten side-scrolling platformer was developed by AIM and published by IGS. Hang on, wait a second, IGS? The Chinese company? Well, no, it turns out that while an IGS exists in China that plays a role in the mobile gaming market, there was another IGS from Japan, which the Mario bootleggers obviously never bothered to erase from their game's title screen.
Alrighty then, shall we go to jail?
The Japanese IGS would publish several games in the Famicom era, such as Puzznic, Roboco Wars and Armadillo. So this raises the question, who was responsible for the Mario bootleg? Well, apart from ripping the sprite from Super Mario Bros. 3, graphical assets were also taken from the game Dian Shi Ma Li, a Famicom game based on the Taiwanese Zhao Ma Li gambling machines. According to bootleggames.com, the original release claims to be called Big TV Mary Bar, made by Namco Corporation in Taiwan in 1989. So maybe this bootleg never came from the People's Republic of China, but instead Taiwan, like many other bootlegs we have covered here. This game is apparently the original source of the Mario image seen on the title screen. This image would later appear with edited colours in the infamous game known as Seven Grandad, but that's a whole story for another time. While no one is sure who produced Mario 4, many theorise that it was created by the same hackers responsible for Seven Grandad. This is because numerous releases of both games feature close to identical PCBs. For this reason, some speculate that JY Company had something to do with it, the Taiwanese publisher who would deliver all the best known Hummer Team games to us. So, Chinese, Taiwanese, we do not know where this game came from. One thing is for sure though, in a world where Nintendo fiercely protects its IP, selling this game in most places would be considered illegal. But this would have been the fourth entry in the Super Mario Bros. Series for many who grew up with this game worldwide. Even more amusingly, bootleggers did not stop there, with chronologically numbered entries from this dubious part of history. So, let me know in the comment section if you want me to make a video on the illegal Super Mario Bros. 5 next. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this one, why not check out my old video on the Super Mario Bros. 4 Game Boy game. See you soon.